Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty and looked out at the massive alien world in front of them. The planet was 3 times bigger than Earth and covered in purple clouds. Strange towers made of crystal reached up into the sky like giant fingers. This was Zephyria Prime, home to the most powerful alien empire in the galaxy. "Sir, we're getting a message from the planet," said Commander Lisa Brooks. She was Jake's second in command and had been with him for 5 years. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the worry in it. "Put it on screen," Jake said. The main screen flickered and showed an alien face. The creature had blue skin and 4 eyes that glowed like stars. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English. "Human ship, you will land at the capital. City, the Empress will see you in 1 hour. Do not bring weapons. Do not bring more than 5 people." The screen went black. Dr. Alan Carter, the ship's expert on alien life, walked up to Jake. "Captain, this is not how we planned the meeting. We were supposed to meet in space first, then talk about landing." Jake nodded. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. His gut told him something was wrong, but they had come too far to turn back now. Earth needed this peace treaty. The Zephyrian Empire was growing fast and would reach human space in 2 years. If they could not make peace, there would be war. "Lisa, pick 3 people to come with me. Sam Parker for engineering questions, Dr. Carter for alien culture, and you for security advice," Jake said. "Sir, I don't like this," Lisa said. "They're calling all the shots. That's not how good talks start." "I know," Jake said, "but we have to try. If we don't make peace, they'll crush every human world in their path." The USS Liberty landed in a huge field outside the Crystal City. Jake had never seen anything like it. The buildings seemed to grow out of the ground like plants. They twisted and curved in ways that hurt his eyes to look at. Strange flying machines moved between the towers like metal birds. As soon as they stepped off the ship, alien soldiers surrounded them. The soldiers were tall and thin with silver armor that seemed to move like water. They carried weapons that looked like glass sticks but hummed with power. "This way, humans," one soldier said. His voice sounded like wind through metal. They walked through the city streets. Aliens stopped to stare at them. Some looked curious, others looked angry. Jake noticed that all the aliens were beautiful in a cold way, like living statues. Their skin came in different colors: blue, green, silver, and gold. Their eyes were always bright and seemed to see everything. The palace was the biggest building Jake had ever seen. It was made of crystal that changed color as they walked. The walls showed pictures of great battles and alien leaders. Jake saw images of the Zephyrian Empire conquering world after world. Inside the palace, more soldiers led them through long halls. The floors were so smooth, they looked like mirrors. Strange music played from somewhere Jake could not see. It sounded like singing, but not from any throat he knew. They came to a great room with a throne made of black crystal. On the throne sat the most beautiful and scary creature Jake had ever seen. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with skin like polished silver. Her hair was long and white like starlight. She wore a crown that looked like it was made of frozen fire. Her eyes were the color of deep space, dark blue with points of light like stars. "I am Empress Valara Zenthara," she said. Her voice was like music and thunder at the same time. "You are the humans who want to talk about peace." Jake stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Yes, Your Majesty, I am Captain Jake Morrison. We come hoping to find a way for our people to live together without war." The Empress looked at him for a long time. Jake felt like she was reading his mind. Around the throne room, other aliens watched. Jake could feel their dislike like heat from a fire. "Your people are weak," said one alien lord. He had golden skin and wore robes covered in jewels. "Why should we talk to them? We should just take their worlds." "Because war costs lives on both sides," Jake said. "And because humans might surprise you if you underestimate us." The Empress raised one hand and the room became quiet. "General, Thaxmar speaks the thoughts of many here. They do not see why the great Zephyrian Empire should treat with a young species like yours." "Because we're not asking you to fear us," Jake said. "We're offering friendship, trade, shared knowledge, Both our peoples could gain from working together instead of fighting. Another alien lord laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. What could your primitive species teach us? You barely have space travel. Jake felt his temper rise, but kept his voice calm. Maybe we could teach you that being strong doesn't always mean using that strength to hurt others. The room became very quiet. Jake realized he might have said the wrong thing. The aliens around the throne looked angry. Some put their hands on their weapons, but the Empress smiled. It was not a warm smile. Interesting words, Captain Morrison. Tell me, do you truly believe your species would choose peace if they had our power? I hope so, Jake said honestly. But I know humans aren't perfect. We've made mistakes too. That's why we want to try talking first. The Empress stood up. She was even taller than Jake had thought. When she moved, her robes seemed to flow like water. We will talk more, but not here. Too many ears listen. Come to my private rooms in 1 hour. Come alone. Your Majesty, I should bring my advisors. Jake started. Alone, the Empress said, again. Her voice made it clear this was not a request. As they left the throne room, Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. Sir, this feels like a trap. Don't go alone. I have to, Jake said. This might be our only chance. 1 hour later, Jake walked alone through the palace halls. Guards led him to a door made of blue crystal. When it opened, he stepped into a room unlike anything he had seen. The walls were transparent and showed the alien city at night. Stars shone through the crystal ceiling. In the center of the room stood the Empress. She had changed from her formal robes into something simpler but no less beautiful. Her silver skin seemed to glow in the starlight. When she looked at him, Jake felt very small and very human. Captain Morrison, she said, walking toward him. We need to talk. Jake stood his ground, but his heart was beating fast. About the peace treaty? The Empress came closer. Jake found himself backing up until he hit the crystal wall behind him. She put one hand on the wall next to his head and leaned in close. Her eyes were like looking into deep space. You want peace, human? She said in a voice that was almost a whisper. Then marry me. Jake stood frozen. His mind went blank. The fate of humanity might depend on what he said next, but no words would come. The Empress waited, watching his face with those star-filled eyes, while the alien city sparkled beyond the crystal walls. Jake's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. The Empress stepped back and watched him with those deep blue eyes. The silence in the crystal room felt heavy like a weight on his chest. What? Jake finally managed to say. Empress Valara walked to a window that looked out over her city. The lights below made her silver skin glow like metal in firelight. You seem surprised, Captain Morrison. Did you think peace would come easily? Jake pushed himself away from the wall. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to stand straight. Your Majesty, I came here to talk about trade agreements and borders, not marriage. In my culture, marriage is the highest form of alliance, the Empress said without turning around. When two leaders marry, their peoples become one family. No war can exist between family. But you don't even know me, Jake said. His voice cracked a little. The Empress turned and smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not kind either. I have studied your species for 3 years, Captain. I know more about humans than you might think. I know about your wars, your art, your strange need to help others even when it hurts you. I find it interesting. Jake's mind was racing. This was insane. He had come here to prevent a war, not to get married to an alien empress. Your Majesty, surely there are other ways to make peace. Are there? The Empress walked to a table made of red crystal and poured herself a drink from a bottle that seemed to contain liquid starlight. My war council meets tomorrow. General, Thaxmar has convinced most of them that humans are too dangerous to live. He wants to attack your worlds before you become stronger. Jake felt cold. And you? What do you want? I want to see what happens when two very different species try to work together, she said. But I need a reason to tell my people why I am choosing peace over conquest. Marriage gives me that reason. The Empress sat in a chair that looked like it was carved from a single piece of black stone. If you become my husband, you become co-ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. Your people become my people. No one can attack them without attacking me. Jake sat down hard in another chair. The crystal was cold against his back. This is crazy. I'm just a ship captain. I don't know how to rule an empire. You led your people across the stars to ask for peace instead of preparing for war, the Empress said. That tells me you understand leadership better than most. But marriage? Jake shook his head. In human culture, marriage is about love, about choosing to be with someone forever because you care about them. The Empress was quiet for a moment. And you think I cannot care for you? Jake looked at her carefully. She was beautiful, yes, but also alien in ways he could not understand. I think we barely know each other. How can two people from different worlds, different species, make a marriage work? Many marriages in my culture start as political arrangements, she said. Some grow into something more. Others remain partnerships of respect and duty. Both can work. Jake thought about his crew waiting on the ship. He thought about Earth and all the human colonies scattered across space. Millions of lives might depend on what he decided in this strange crystal room. You said I have a choice, Jake said. What happens if I say no? The Empress's eyes became colder. Then I will have no choice but to listen to my war council. They will see your rejection as proof that humans cannot be trusted. The fleet will move against your worlds within the month. Jake put his head in his hands. And if I say yes? Then, you have time to prove that this alliance can work. 1 year. If after 1 year you wish to leave, I will grant you divorce and safe passage home. Your people will keep their protected status. 1 year, Jake repeated. 1 year, the Empress agreed. But you must decide now. The War Council meets in 18 hours. I need an answer to give them. Jake stood up and walked to the window. The alien city spread out below him like a sea of lights. Somewhere up in the stars, his ship waited with his crew. They were probably worried sick about him. May I speak with my people first? Jake asked. The Empress nodded. You have until sunrise. That gives you 6 hours in your time measurement. Jake was escorted back to his ship by silent guards. As soon as he walked onto the bridge, Lisa and the others surrounded him. Captain, what happened? Lisa asked. You look like you've seen a ghost. Jake looked at his crew. These people trusted him. They had followed him across the galaxy because they believed in his mission. How could he tell them what the Empress had asked? She wants to make an alliance, Jake said slowly. But her terms are unusual. Dr. Carter leaned forward. What kind of terms? Jake took a deep breath. She wants me to marry her. The bridge became very quiet. Lisa's mouth fell open. Sam Parker, the chief engineer, whistled low. Sir, Lisa said carefully, did you just say marry? It's how they make alliances in their culture, Jake explained. He told them everything the Empress had said about marriage being the strongest bond between peoples. It's actually not uncommon in many Earth cultures, Dr. Carter said thoughtfully. Political marriages have been used to prevent wars for thousands of years. But she's an alien, Sam said. No offense, Captain, but this seems pretty extreme. What choice do we have? Jake asked. If I say no, they attack our worlds. If I say yes, humanity gets protection and time to grow stronger. Lisa was pacing back and forth. Sir, this could be a trap. What if she marries you and then breaks the agreement? What if she's planning to use you as a hostage? What if she's not? Jake said. What if this is the only chance we have? They talked for hours. Dr. Carter pulled up everything he knew about Zephyrian culture. Lisa went over military options, all of which looked hopeless against the Empire's vast fleet. Sam calculated how long it would take for news to reach Earth and reinforcements to arrive. The answer was too long. As the alien sun began to rise outside the ship's windows, Jake made his decision. I'm going to do it, he said. Sir, Lisa started. No, Jake said firmly. This is the best chance humanity has. Maybe the only chance. If marrying her keeps our people safe, then that's what I'll do. For how long? Dr. Carter asked. She said 1 year. After that, I can choose to stay or leave. Lisa looked unhappy but nodded. If you're sure, sir, we'll support whatever you decide. Jake walked back to the palace as the alien sun climbed higher, in the purple sky. The guards led him to the same crystal room where he had met the Empress the night before. She was waiting for him, dressed in robes that seemed to be made of captured moonlight. Have you decided, Captain Morrison? She asked. Jake straightened his shoulders and looked her in the eye. Yes, I accept your proposal. The Empress smiled, and for the first time it seemed almost warm. Then we have an agreement. I will announce our engagement to the War Council this morning. The wedding will take place in 3 days. 3 days? Jake's voice squeaked a little. Time is important, the Empress said. The sooner we are married, the sooner your people are safe. As Jake walked back to his ship to prepare for the strangest wedding in human history, he wondered what he had just gotten himself into. Behind him, the Empress watched from her crystal window, and for just a moment, she looked almost as nervous as he felt. The next day passed in a blur of strange alien customs and wedding preparations. Jake sat through meetings with Zephyrian nobles who looked at him like he was something they had found on the bottom of their shoes. He learned about ceremony rules, marriage laws, and the complex politics of the empire. But what surprised him most was when the Empress asked him to join her for dinner that evening. Not a formal state dinner with dozens of nobles watching, but a private meal in her rooms. Jake arrived at sunset to find a simple table set for two. The Empress had changed from her formal robes into something that looked almost normal by human standards. She was still clearly alien with her silver skin and star-bright eyes, but she seemed more like a person and less like a living statue. Please, sit, she said, pointing to a chair across from her. I thought we should talk before we become husband and wife. Jake sat down carefully. The food on the table looked strange but smelled good. There were fruits that glowed softly and vegetables, in colors he had never seen. This is nice, he said awkwardly. You seem surprised, the Empress said as she began to eat. I guess I didn't expect you to want to have dinner together, Jake admitted. Yesterday you were giving me orders. Tonight you're asking me to sit. The Moe. Empress was quiet for a moment. Tell me, Captain Morrison, what do you think of me? Jake nearly choked on his drink. It tasted like honey mixed with starlight. What do you mean? Do you think I am evil? A monster who conquers worlds for fun? Jake looked at her carefully. I think you're powerful, and probably dangerous, but evil. I don't know you well enough to say. Honest, she said with a small smile. I like that. They ate in silence for a while. The food was better than Jake had expected. Some of it even tasted like things from Earth, though he was sure it was not. May I ask you something? Jake said finally. Of course. Why me? I mean, why marriage at all? You're powerful enough to just order your people to leave humans alone. The Empress set down her fork. It was made of some kind of crystal that sang softly when it touched the plate. Power is more complicated than that, Captain. I may be Empress, but I rule through the support of the noble houses and the military. If they decide I am weak or making bad choices, they can replace me. They can overthrow you? It has happened before. My father was killed by rivals when I was very young. I have been fighting to keep my throne ever since. Jake looked at her with new eyes. How young? 16 years old in your time measurement. That's just a child, Jake said without thinking. The Empress's eyes flashed. I was old enough to lead armies and make the hard choices that kept my people alive. Jake held up his hands. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult you. In human culture, 16 is very young to have so much responsibility. She relaxed a little. I forget sometimes that your species takes longer to mature. What age do humans usually marry? It varies. Usually somewhere between 20 and 30, sometimes older. And your age now? 34. So you are well past the age of choice, she said. Good. I would not want a child husband. Jake almost laughed at that. Definitely not a child, though I feel like one sometimes when I look at your empire. You should not, the Empress said seriously. Your species may be young, but you have qualities that older races have lost. Like what? Hope, she said simply. Curiosity. The willingness to take risks for what you believe is right. Most species become careful as they grow powerful. They stop exploring, stop growing, stop trying new things. And you think humans are different? You came here, didn't you? A single ship against an empire, hoping to make peace instead of preparing for war. That takes a kind of courage that most races lose. Jake thought about that. Or it could just be stupidity. The Empress laughed. It was the first time he had heard her laugh, and it sounded like silver bells. Perhaps, but I prefer to think of it as optimism. They talked more as the evening went on. Jake learned that the Empress loved music and had composed songs that were played across the empire. She learned that Jake had once wanted to be a teacher before joining the military. She told him about the beautiful but deadly politics of her court. He told her about Earth's blue skies and green forests. What is it like? She asked. To live on a world with only one intelligent species? Crowded, Jake said, making her laugh again. But also simpler in some ways. We fight about a lot of things, but at least we're all human. Do you miss it, your home world? Jake thought about Earth's cities and oceans, about the small town where he had grown up. Yes, but I knew when I took this mission that I might not see it again for a long time. And now you definitely will not. At least not for a year. Are you having second thoughts about marrying me? Jake asked. The Empress was quiet for so long that Jake wondered if he had said something wrong. Finally, she spoke. I have never married for love, Captain Morrison. All my life, marriage has been a tool of politics and power. I confess I am curious what it would be like to have a husband who was not chosen by my advisors. You chose me, Jake pointed out. Yes, but for political reasons. Still, there is something different about you. Before Jake could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. The crystal walls flashed red, and voices shouted in the Zephyrian language. The Empress jumped to her feet, her face hard. What's happening? Jake asked. Coup, she said grimly. Someone is trying to take the throne. Guards burst through the door. Their leader spoke rapidly in Zephyrian. The Empress answered in the same language, her voice sharp with command. General Thaxamar has seized the military. Command center, she told Jake. He is declaring me unfit to rule because I plan to marry a human. What do we do? The Empress looked at him with something like surprise. We? You said we were going to be married. That makes your problems my problems. For a moment, her face softened. Then she was all business again. We need to get to your ship. It is the only place that will be safe from Thaxamar's forces. More guards appeared in the doorway, but these ones were pointing their weapons at the Empress. Jake did not need to speak Zephyrian to understand that they were not there to help. This way, the Empress whispered, pulling Jake toward a wall that suddenly opened like a door. Secret passage, hurry. They ran through hidden corridors as the sounds of fighting echoed behind them. The Empress moved like a dancer, quick and silent. Jake did his best to keep up. Your ship, she said as they reached a window that looked out over the landing field. Can your people defend it? Jake looked at the USS Liberty sitting in the distance. He could see Zephyrian soldiers moving toward it. For a while, but not against your whole army. Not my army anymore, the Empress said bitterly. Thaxamar has turned them against me. Then we better hurry. They climbed out the window and ran across the dark field. Jake's heart pounded as energy blasts flew over their heads. The Empress was right beside him, her robes torn and her silver hair streaming behind her. As they reached the ship, Jake realized something had changed. He was no longer thinking about the Empress as an alien enemy he had to marry to save his people. He was thinking about her as a person who needed his help. Maybe that was a good start for a marriage, even a strange one like theirs. Jake and the Empress reached the USS Liberty, just as enemy soldiers surrounded the landing field. Lisa met them at the door with her weapon drawn, but she lowered it when she saw Jake. "Captain, what's happening out there?" Lisa asked as they rushed inside. "Revolution," Jake said quickly. "General Thaxamar is trying to take over. The Empress needs sanctuary." Lisa looked at the silver-skinned alien woman standing in their ship. Even with her clothes torn and dirt on her face, the Empress still looked like royalty. "Sanctuary? Sir, she's supposed to be our enemy." "She's supposed to be my wife in 2 days," Jake reminded her. "And right now, she's the only thing standing between us and a war." The ship shook as energy blasts hit the hull. Sam Parker's voice came over the speakers. "Captain, we've got about 50 enemy soldiers out there, and more coming. Shields are holding, but not for long." "Battle stations," Jake ordered. Then he turned to the Empress. "Your Majesty, do you have any loyal forces left?" The Empress was working at one of the ship's communication panels. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, and Jake was surprised to see that she understood human technology. "Some," she said, without looking up. "Admiral Corex commands the Third Fleet. He trained me when I was young. He will not follow Thaxmar. Can you contact him?" "I am trying." The Empress spoke into the communicator in her own language. After a moment, an alien face appeared on the screen. He was older than most Zephyrians Jake had seen, with golden skin marked by battle scars. The conversation was quick and urgent. Jake could not understand the words, but he could hear the worry in both voices. "Corex will help," the Empress told Jake. "But his ships are 3 hours away. Thaxmar controls everything closer." "Then we hold out for 3 hours," Jake said simply. Dr. Carter looked up from his station. "Captain, the enemy has brought up heavy weapons. Our shields won't last that long," Jake thought quickly. He had been a military officer before becoming a diplomat. "Lisa, what do we have for weapons?" "Standard ship defenses. Nothing compared to what they're bringing." "We don't need to beat them," Jake said. "We just need to survive and maybe make them think twice." The Empress watched as Jake's crew prepared for battle. "You would fight for me?" she asked quietly. "I would fight for peace," Jake corrected. "But yes, that means fighting for you right now." The battle began in earnest as Zephyrian tanks rolled onto the field. The USS Liberty's shields flared bright blue as energy blast hammered them. Jake could feel the ship shaking with each hit. "Sir," Sam called from engineering. "I have an idea. These aliens use energy weapons, right? What if we reversed our shield, polarity, and reflected their shots back at them?" "Can you do that?" Jake asked. "Give me 5 minutes." "You have 3, Jake said as another blast rocked the ship. The Empress was still working at the communications panel. "I am contacting other loyal commanders," she explained. "If we can coordinate our defense—" "Your Majesty," Jake interrupted. "I know this might sound strange, but do you know anything about human military tactics?" She looked surprised. "Some. I studied your species' history. Then you know we're pretty good at making big enemies look stupid?" A small smile crossed her face. "You wish to use guerrilla tactics against Thaxmar?" "Something like that." Jake turned to Lisa. "What would happen if we suddenly dropped shields and made a run for orbit?" Lisa understood immediately. "They'd follow us, leave the planet undefended. And if Admiral Corex's fleet happened to arrive while they were chasing us, they'd be caught between us and him," the Empress finished. "Clever, but dangerous. Most good plans are—" Sam's voice crackled over the speakers. "Captain, shield modifications are ready. We can reflect their energy back at them now." "Do it." The next blast from the enemy tanks bounced off their shields and flew back toward the Zephyrian forces. One of their own weapons hit their command vehicle, which exploded in a ball of purple fire. "Now!" Jake shouted. The USS Liberty lifted off, its engines roaring. The surprised enemy forces scrambled to follow as the human ship shot toward space. Behind them, Zephyrian fighters launched from hidden bases around the planet. "They're taking the bait," Lisa reported. 15 ships following us." Jake looked at the Empress. "Your people fight well." "So do yours," she replied, watching the tactical display. Though your ship is much smaller than theirs. Size isn't everything, Jake said with a grin. In space, the battle became a deadly game of cat and mouse. The human ship was faster and more agile than the Zephyrian vessels, but they had more firepower. Jake used every trick he knew, diving behind the planet's moons, using asteroid fields for cover, making the enemy waste shots on empty space. Contact, Sam announced. Admiral Corex's fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. On the main screen, 12 massive Zephyrian warships appeared like silver daggers against the stars. The rebels who had been chasing the USS Liberty suddenly found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. "This is Admiral Corex to all rebel ships," came a voice over the communicator. "Surrender now and you will be treated with mercy." Most of the enemy ships powered down their weapons immediately. A few tried to run, but Corex's fleet was too fast for them. "The planet," the Empress said urgently. "Thaxamar still controls the capital." Jake was already turning the ship around. "Then let's go get it back." They landed at the palace with Admiral Corex's Marines providing cover. The fighting in the city was fierce but brief. Thaxmar's forces had expected to face only loyal guards, not human tactical advice and space-based support. Jake found himself fighting alongside Zephyrian soldiers, something he had never expected to do. The Empress was right beside him, moving with deadly grace as she led the charge to retake her throne room. "You fight well for a diplomat," she said as they paused behind cover. "You lead well for someone who's supposed to be a tyrant," Jake replied. She laughed, and Jake realized that somewhere in the middle of battle, he had stopped being afraid of her. They reached the throne room to find General Thaxamar waiting with a small group of loyal followers. The golden-skinned alien looked furious as he saw the Empress enter with human allies. "You shame our people," he snarled, "bringing aliens into our sacred places." "I bring allies into my home," the Empress replied calmly. "Something you seem to have forgotten how to do." The confrontation was brief. Thaxmar's remaining forces surrendered when they saw that the palace was surrounded by loyal troops. The general himself was taken away in chains, still cursing about the dishonor of working with humans. Later, as the sun rose over the Crystal City, Jake and the Empress stood in her private chambers. Both were tired and dirty from the fighting, but they were alive. "Well," Jake said, "that was an interesting way to spend an evening." "Is this how humans usually conduct their courtships?" the Empress asked with a straight face. Jake stared at her for a moment, then burst out laughing. "No, definitely not." "Good," she said, smiling. "I was beginning to worry your species was even stranger than I thought." Jake looked at her. Really? Looked at her for the first time since arriving on her world. She was still alien, still powerful, still dangerous. But she was also brave, smart, and apparently had a sense of humor. "So," he said, "are we still getting married tomorrow?" "If you still wish to," she said carefully. Jake thought about everything that had happened. A few days ago, he had been a simple ship captain hoping to prevent a war. Now he was about to become co-ruler of an alien empire. It was crazy, impossible, and probably the most important thing he would ever do. "Yeah," he said finally. "I think I do." The Empress smiled, and this time it was completely warm. "Then let us rest, Captain Morrison. Tomorrow we make history." 3 months had passed since the most unusual wedding in galactic history. Jake stood in the great crystal hall of the palace, wearing robes that marked him as co-ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. He still felt strange in the formal clothes, but he was getting used to many strange things. The wedding itself had been broadcast across the galaxy. Jake remembered standing next to Valara as thousands of beings from dozens of worlds watched them join their lives together. The ceremony had mixed human and Zephyrian traditions in ways that no one had ever tried before. Now, as he prepared to address the combined Human Colonial Council and Zephyrian High Command, Jake thought about how much had changed. The scared ship captain who had been cornered against a crystal wall was gone. In his place stood someone who was learning to be a leader of worlds. "Ready?" Valara asked, entering the hall. She no longer seemed like a distant alien empress to him. Somewhere, between fighting rebels and learning to rule together, she had become his partner in the truest sense. As ready as I'll ever be, Jake said. He was still nervous about public speaking, especially to such important audiences. You will do well, Valara said with confidence. You always do. The holographic projectors activated, filling the hall, with images of government officials from across human and Zephyrian space. Jake could see the colonial council chambers on Earth, Zephyrian command centers on a dozen worlds, and even representatives from other alien species who had requested to observe. Citizens of both our peoples, Jake began, his voice carrying across space to millions of listeners. 3 months ago, I was just a ship captain hoping to prevent a war. Today I stand before you as living proof that different species can work together, not just in peace but in partnership. He paused, looking at the faces watching him. Some were human, some alien, all paying attention to his words. I won't lie to you. This hasn't been easy. Learning to understand each other, to respect our differences while building on our similarities has been the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also been the most rewarding. Jake gestured to a display that showed statistics from the past 3 months. Human colonies now trade freely with Zephyrian worlds. Our technology combines with theirs to create things neither of us could build alone. Most importantly, both our peoples are safer than they have ever been. Admiral Corax, attending from his flagship, spoke up. Co-Emperor Morrison, what of the reports that some Zephyrian nobles still oppose this alliance? Jake nodded. There will always be those who fear change on both sides. Some humans think I've sold out to aliens. Some Zephyrians think the Empress has weakened the Empire by accepting human ways. But fear of the different is what causes wars in the first place. A human colonial governor asked, what about the other alien species? How do they see this alliance? Valara answered this one. 3 major species have requested similar partnerships. The Andorian Republic wants to discuss trade agreements. The Crystal Confederation has asked about joining our Mutual Defense Pact. Even the mysterious Voidwalkers have sent ambassadors for the first time in 50 years. Jake smiled at his wife. They had practiced working together like this, finishing each other's thoughts and supporting each other's points. It was one of many things they had learned to do as a team. But the most important change, Jake continued, is in how we see ourselves. Humans are no longer a small, weak species hiding from bigger empires. We are partners in the strongest alliance in this part of the galaxy. Zephyrians are no longer conquerors taking what they want by force. They are leaders building a future where all species can thrive. Dr. Carter, attending from the USS Liberty, asked, Jake, what would you say to those who doubt that such different species can really understand each other? Jake looked at Valara, who nodded encouragingly. I'd say that understanding doesn't mean being the same. My wife and I are very different. She thinks like an empress who has ruled for years. I think like a human who grew up believing everyone deserves a voice, but those differences make us stronger, not weaker. We challenge each other, Valara added. The Emperor pushes me to consider new ideas. I help him understand the responsibilities of power. Together we make better decisions than either of us would alone. A Zephyrian commander from the outer world spoke next. What are your plans for the future of this alliance? Growth, Jake said simply. Not the kind of growth that comes from conquest, but the kind that comes from cooperation. We're planning joint exploration missions to unknown parts of the galaxy. We're building new cities designed by both human and Zephyrian architects. We're creating the first interspecies military academy where young officers from both peoples will train together. Most importantly, Valara said, we are proving that the galaxy doesn't have to be about big empires crushing small ones. It can be about different peoples choosing to work together because they're stronger united than divided. The questions continued for another hour. Jake found himself growing more confident as he spoke. These people weren't strangers judging him anymore. They were citizens of worlds he helped protect, people whose futures depended on the choices he and Valara made together. Finally, the session ended. The holograms faded, leaving Jake and Valara alone in the crystal hall. That went well, Valara said, putting her hand on his arm. Better than I expected, Jake agreed. Though I still can't believe this is my life now. Do you regret it? She asked quietly. Jake thought about that question seriously. He missed Earth, missed the simple days when his biggest worry was keeping one ship running. But he also thought about the children in human colonies who would grow up never knowing the fear of alien invasion. He thought about Zephyrian youth, who were learning that strength could be used to protect instead of conquer. No, he said finally. I don't regret it. This is bigger than anything I ever imagined I could be part of. Valara smiled. I am glad, because I have something to tell. You. Oh? The Galactic Council has invited us to speak at their next gathering. They want to hear about our alliance from both of us. Jake's eyes widened. The Galactic Council included representatives from over 100 species. It was the closest thing to a galaxy-wide government that existed. They want us to speak to everyone? They want to know if what we have built here can work on a larger scale, Valara explained. Other species are watching our success and wondering if they too can find alternatives to conflict. Jake walked to the window that looked out over the Crystal City. In the distance, he could see the new district where humans and Zephyrians lived and worked side by side. Children of both species played in parks designed for multiple kinds of beings. It was far from perfect, but it was working. You know what the crazy part is? Jake said. What? A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be married to an alien empress and helping rule an interstellar empire, I'd have checked them into a mental hospital. Valara laughed, the sound like silver bells in the crystal chamber. And if someone had told me I would marry a human diplomat and learn to value his strange ideas about equality and cooperation, I would have had them executed for madness. Good thing we're both crazy then, Jake said with a grin. Indeed. Valara joined him at the window. So, husband, are you ready to take our message to the galaxy? Jake looked out at the peaceful city, then at his remarkable wife, then back at the stars visible through the crystal dome above them. Somewhere out there, other species were watching, waiting to see if the impossible alliance between humans and Zephyrians would last. Yeah, he said, feeling more confident than he had in months. I think I am. As the alien sun set over the crystal spires, Jake Morrison, former ship captain, current co-emperor, and accidentally successful diplomat, prepared to help his wife change the galaxy, one alliance at a time. It wasn't the life he had planned, but it was turning out to be exactly the life the galaxy needed him to live. The Empress had cornered him against a wall and demanded marriage for peace. What she had gotten was a partner who would help her build something neither humans nor Zephyrians could have imagined alone. A future where being different was not a reason for war, but a foundation for strength. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all.